SimWorld presents Around the Table with E and the Fat Man.
What's up, everybody? It's me, it's the B.O.B., and I am here with my man, E. How are you doing today?
A little sad, Bob. The season's over, but I know there's a next one coming right around the corner. So
yeah, I mean, season's over. The Saturday show, the SimWorld Prep Saturday Showcase, just ended yesterday, which was great.
Yeah, that's
yesterday. We're going to talk. Today's episode is going to be about our two early top three teams pre-commitment period, because a lot can happen after the commitment period opens up. But yesterday, the showcase. E, what was your favorite part of it?
Oh, well, I mean, actually the fact that the game turned out to be a game, I'm not saying a whole lot of people either on the floor or in the crowd cared about who was going to come out with a win or loss. It's not that kind of a situation in one of these all-star things, but, the kids came to play. The game was competitive and was pretty tight all the way and actually had a pretty wild, exciting finish. And, normally final score isn't what matters, but in this one, I love the fact that we had a down to the wire. Needed a bucket inside of 5 seconds to decide this thing. So that was the most exciting thing for me. And then again, I also got to say, and I talked about it when I was covering the game, I was on the broadcast yesterday. Trey Hyman, his team didn't come out with a W, but Trey came out with my MVP award. He was special yesterday. 26 points, 6 boards.
Yeah, he was great all around. Arthur Lattimore on the other side, great all around. My favorite part of the
too.
What'd you say?
You get the game winner, too.
Had the game winner. My favorite thing about yesterday was that lineup. that the Legacy Conference threw out there. I mean, you had Benari James at point guard, but then you have 6'9" Arthur Lattimore at shooting guard. You had Lorenzo Phenom, 6'10". Yeah, I mean, you had that entire Tyson Simpson at power forward, Victoria Solgauskas at center. Man, it reminded me of the Africa team that upset the Pacific Northwest, formerly Cascadia.
You've seen that format work. You're right, Bob.
But anyways, didn't say this is Around the Table with E and the Fat Man. That is E. I am the Fat Man. This is the podcast where we talk about whatever we want. So we're going to jump right in. I gave the topic away a little bit. We're going to talk about our top 3 teams heading into next season, pre-commitment period. E, I'll let you go first. Who is your number 3 going into next season?
Well, my third team is one that had a really good year this year, but I expect even better things. It's they're losing some of their stars, but the Yacht Club. We just saw them have a big Saturday showcase. Dominic Bianco winning the dunk contest and starring in the main event. And look, he's not coming back. Reserve Rizzo Davis Wright-Sill RDW not coming back either. And Jay Laster's announced that he's going to be moving on. But still, look at the core you can return with these guys. You got the 7-footer Adam Max. We all know about the big impact he made after he came off suspension this season. And then you got a couple other guys out there who, should be, we're off and on starters this year coming back. Tashawn Issam. Big power forward, Good talented kid. Tamir Johnson, also kind of a swing wing kind of a guy. Trey Willis. Wouldn't surprise me to see Trey take over at point for Rizzo or for Dominic next year. Garrett Hart and DeMarco Graham, who we've seen star in limited minutes too. I like the Yacht Club. I like what Marcus Laster, a good coach, has done. Coach these guys to an 18-15 record this year. I think you're going to see them well over 20 wins next year, and I think they're going to be a threat in next year's race to 1.
Yeah, I know that they're losing Bianco, and Jay Laster is going to be playing for a new team next season, but the rumor is that they're going to be bringing in either Royce Anderson or Kayvon Jackson or maybe both of them. So this team could very well, like you said, if they get either one of those guys, I can see them easily being a 20-win or more team next season.
Now, Coach Laster has a lot to do to get them there. First thing you got to do is land some of these guys who've been rumored to be taking their talents to South Florida. But also, you got to re-recruit guys. You got to make sure the likes of Trey Willis, Adam Max, Tamir Johnson, Garrett Hart, DeMarco Graham aren't going anywhere. So, things may have just ended yesterday. It's the offseason now, but there's still a lot to do for these coaches.
Yeah, the one thing that these coaches have to remember is if the rumors are true, the commitment period hasn't started yet. So just because somebody said that they might be coming to your team, we've seen it this offseason, or this for season 1, the offseason heading into season 1, that coaches thought that they were getting this player, and all of a sudden they signed somewhere else. So just because they said now they're coming, we'll see. We'll see in a couple days. Well,
and the soft recruitment commitment period, Bob, just to remind everybody, starts just in a couple days. September 1, verbal recruits get going, so or verbal commitments get going. So don't sleep. No time off.
You know, I am stuck for my number 3 heading into the season. I have 2 teams, and one team did not do too hot last season. They weren't the worst team in the world, but they weren't a playoff team, a race to 1 team. And, you know, I don't think I don't think I can put them at number 3, but I will still mention them. I think that Gulf Coast Lockdown are going to surprise some teams next season. And when you're going to have an entire off season here of De'Aaron Cruz and Suno Chapa playing together, returning Edward Hamilton and Akeem Young, solid big, Deontay Joyce, solid big. I think that they have the scoring pieces there. Defense is going to be the biggest question, which was also one of their struggles this season. But I think I'm going to go with one of the more obvious choices for my number 3. I have to go with Run DMV.
Interesting.
And I say that I would expect, despite there apparently not being a whole lot of talent on the East Coast, I don't know what's going on. If you're not from Texas or California, I don't know. I don't know where the recruits are going to be coming from for you, but
true.
But they have Trey Truss returning, they have Nick Hugo returning, and they have Jahan Hudgens returning. I believe that is a solid core for them. Nick Hugo is only going to get better. At the end of the season, we were talking about him being one of the top 3 bigs in all of SimWorld Hoops, and to be successful, you really do need a big. I mean, you look at Southeast Select; they had 3, and they made it to the championship game. But I think I have to go with Coach Murray and Run DMV for number 3 because we see what happens whenever we doubt Coach Murray. They make a run, and somehow they have 19 wins this season. I'm not sure how it happened. They did get upset in the first round, but somehow they have 19 wins after starting off so poorly. But Nick Hugo's growth over the season, I believe that he's one of those players that I believe he's one of those bigs that can really take over a game. If you have a Shaq on your team, like Shaq is going to take over and get you those wins. I'm not saying Nick Hugo is Shaq at all, but I think that he has the talent to be able to take over a team and lead them to a top 3 heading into the off season.
You just talked about Nick Hugo's growth, and I think in a literal sense, Nick Hugo's growth is going to be a big part of if Run DMV actually backs up your top 3 team prediction next year, Bob. Keep in mind, Hugo's just 6'7", 230, which is plenty big for a 16-year-old kid. On the other hand, if he were to come back next year, 6'9" or so, that would be better for a Run DMV squad that's a little bit undersized. Now, they're not going to lose much size in terms of, guys moving on to the college rank this year. And John Hudgens is a 6'10" guy. Malik Duffin should be back next year too at 6'9". So they're going to return a little bit of heft, but not a huge team. Run DMV. I think that'll be the one weakness you're looking at next year when you're going to them. Ironically, Bob, actually, I liked your Gulf Coast honorable mention. They were in consideration for me too for that 3rd spot, more so than Run DMV in my own rankings, quite frankly, because they're bringing some real players back, and particularly there's a handful of 16-year-olds on that Gulf Coast squad who got limited run. Like, for instance, I bet a lot of people don't even know the name Akeem Young. 94th ranked player overall in SimWorld, but he averaged 9 points and 7 boards per game, just 16. And, an underused guy like Bevinson Patches, for that matter, too, is coming back. So, there's a lot beyond the sort of big names and main headline firepower in Gulf Coast happening there. I don't hate this DMV pick. I just think that it's even this year, it always was kind of an oddly constructed team. Basically, Hudgens playing a oversized small forward outside of McKenzie and Baco, probably the biggest, traditional three we had in the SimWorld game. And then at the same time, Nick Hugo going out as an undersized, Charles Barkley down there banging in the paint trying to play center. We'll see how it comes together for next year. I'm not quite as high as I'm on you, high on them as you are, Bob. But got to say, I do like that Gulf Coast pick. Maybe they're fourth place on both of our lists. Who knows?
There we go. Well, you know what? We'll snake this a little bit. I'll throw my number 2 out there. And I am going to go with the season 1 Race to 1 champions for number 2. I go with them for number 2. They lose some solid players. They're losing their best player, Fareed Redmond.
Redmond's gone.
He's gone. Well, I say he's their best player. I mean, you can flip him and Cutler around, really. I mean, they're 1A, 1B, really. But they're losing their leading scorer, their leading 3-point maker. I think the loss of Redmond and the loss of the unheralded Eric Busk.
Eric Busk and Kamarian Goodyear is gone too.
Goodyear. I mean, there's rumors that future All-Star Tim Ricks is not going to be returning next season. We'll see. But they have a solid core. Kasim Porter Jr., they have JoJo Kearney and Levin Cutler both returning. Cutler probably going to be a top 10 player, top 15 player at the start of next season. And Isaiah James, a very good defender. I think that they're going to bring somebody in. We know that they're going to bring somebody in. They're going to find a star in, whether it be somebody who decided they don't want to stick to their team from last season, like a Benari James, or whether it's one of these recruits that are still out there, because obviously they can't commit yet. They're going to bring somebody in to replace Redmond, I think. I don't really have concerns, even though they are losing him and he's their leading scorer. Losing him isn't going to be that big of a deal for them, because I know Coach Drayton is going to find someone to replace him. I have to go 24 wins. Are they going to finish with 24 wins again next season? I don't know. We'll see a full season of Levin Cutler being the guy. I think 24 wins is a good shot for them. But I think Drayton's a solid coach, and I think that they have the second most talented team heading into the off season with all the players that they're going to lose. I think they're still up there.
Yep, well, as you said, Eric Busk gone. He's going to be playing at Hofstra. Kamarian Goodyear, Rutgers. Fareed Redmond, still undecided, but he is going to star somewhere in a powerhouse program, the best of all these beasts of the East. So those 3 are gone, but they are going to bring back a ton of talent. And, before we deep dive in them, I'll hold off for a minute, Bob, and you'll see why in a second. But, if they can bring Tim Ricks back, that'll be big. He did average half a point, 1 rebound, and shot 17% from the field last year. So the only thing is I actually kind of like Tim Ricks. I think he can play, but he might want to move on, maybe back to Texas or something to get some new scenery. It did not work out for him, except for coming home with a ring. Let's not overlook that. But Beasts of the East, I like them as your number 2 ranked call. They are not number 2 on my list, and I'll go ahead and take things back over, and I'll do a little snake double up too. My number 2 squad going into next season, Beyond the Arch, actually. And I don't expect they're going to be on your list. I know this is a little bit of an idiosyncratic E-Lava just kind of fave, but I'm a big fan of the talent that Beyond the Arch brings back. Now, look, they are obviously losing Tyson Simpson, and that's obviously a massive loss. One of just the overall finest players in the game. But I think if you look at the rest of this young talent on the BTA team, they're also going to lose their point guard, David Duffy. They're going to lose a couple other guys, but they're going to be bringing back, first of all, Nick Bowie, who a little bit is kind of like a poor man's Nick Hugo, I think. He's going to come back, Nick Bowie, next year as a 17-year-old, undersized big down low, and I expect a lot out of him. And then, it's really the kind of combo of Devin Fields and Daniel Horry. And keep in mind, Horry is just 15 years old, averaged 10.6 points and nailed 83 threes, shot 50% from the field. I think he is going to be the leader, Daniel Horry, on this BTA squad, lining up with Devin Fields. That might be your backcourt, or, Horry can certainly swing over, play a wing position as well. But, matching him up with some of the other relatively young talent on this team, Kyrie Witten-Justin, for instance, as well as Keyshawn Blasingame. I like what BTA does. Now, look, they need a coach. That's one problem. I didn't expect Coach Kusa to leave like that. Coach K obviously left off for new, closer to the homeland of Finland pastures. But I think he's leaving behind actually the core of a talented roster here in St. Louis. And I think they're going to be off most people's radar, but I like BTA. I think BTA is going to have a nice season next year.
Well,
they come in at my number 2 pick.
I don't know if this would change your mind at all. I just got a text message that there's a rumor that Devin Fields is looking to head out. I think the loss of Coach Kusa may have soiled his stay there. It doesn't sound like he wants to stay, but
Well, let's use this actually, and I love the news break, Bob. But let's take advantage of that to make sure that we, openly, fully kind of explain to folks that these lists are our pre-commitment lists.
There you go. Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of shakeup. There's going to be a lot of guys who are going to leave teams we didn't see coming. There's going to be guys who stay with teams that we didn't expect. There's going to be movement. So things are going to look a lot different in a month.
There's
a month after that.
Yeah, there's a reason. There's a reason the Indy Stripes are not going to be on either of our lists, despite all of the talent that they have on paper right now.
This is true. I was tempted to put them on, Bob. I took a long look at them, but
did you? I don't believe you.
Here to get back to the main event. If Devin Fields were to walk away from Beyond the Arch, if he goes, maybe he'll go to APAC. Keep in mind, Fields, is a Tokyo, Japan native.
Yeah.
That would be a horrible blow for this team to suffer. It would be like when Tyson Simpson left the North last year, right? Maybe not as headline grabbing as that, but it would be a big deal. This is a BTA team that yes, could completely be undone by roster defections and needs to get a new coach in there ASAP to start building out the rest of this roster. But if they can keep some of this core together, you were just talking about that big three, Bob, and I think there's a big three in BTA: Daniel Horry, Devin Fields, and Nick Bowie that I have high hopes for next year. But they all got to be playing together.
Yeah,
make that happen
for sure. Well, you know what? We keep that snake going. Who's your number one?
Well, my number one is the team you were already talking about, our Race to One champions, Beasts of the East. I am going to have number one on my rankings list going into next year and being a favorite to repeat even. First of all, got a great coach in Assad Drayton, and he's not going anywhere. 15-8 since he took over Beasts last season. And, as you already talked about, they're losing some really good players. Kamarian Goodyear, Fareed Redmond, starters all year for this Beast squad that won 24 games. And Eric Buski, the captain, coming off the bench, averaging 6 points, 3 rebounds, and, just kind of being a glue guy for this squad. They're going to miss the three of them. But let's just go over the rest of the lineup that we hope and think will be back. And I'm not sure that you're going to see a lot of movement on Beasts. Tim Ricks might walk fine, but Beasts otherwise, coming off of a championship year, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of people too unhappy about returning to this squad. And I'm just going to throw out a hypothetical here. You could have KPJ, Kasim Porter Jr. at point. You could have Leonidas Wright at shooting guard, Rudy Show at small forward, Levin Cutler at power forward, and JoJo Kearney as your center. That's pretty ferocious, especially considering that Isaiah James would be coming off the bench in that situation. This is just a team that has a lot of talent already on this roster. They could easily round it out. And again, Coach Drayton has a good story to sell people out there. Maybe if Royce Anderson is looking, maybe if Devin Fields is looking for a new team, well, Coach Drayton has a pretty good pitch to put to you. Hey, why don't you come on out my way? We win titles here. We put guys on the map. And it is also noteworthy, I think, that all 10 of the Beast of the East players from this season, well, you got 2 who are committed to college, and Fareed Redmond just has to pick between some blue bloods to decide where he's going to go. But all 7 other guys on the team, including Tim Ricks, who I made fun of a little bit, are holding high D1 major offers. So you want press attention, you want the spotlight, you want to maybe take a banner home. Well, Coach Drayton can sell you all of that with Beasts of the East, and I think he is going to round out this already stacked roster. They are my number one going into next year.
Yeah, I am going to have to. It's a good pick. It's hard to argue against the returning champions.
But there's somebody out there that you like better, Bob.
I kind of want to just throw my whole list away because as I sit here and we talk and I think about more things, it's just more people pop up, more teams pop up, but I'm just going to stick with who I was going to go with. And I'm going to go with our Season 1 preseason favorites and say that Bay Area Breakers is my number one team heading into next season. I believe that they are going to have the number one player heading into next season in Trey Hyman. His brother's no slouch either. We just don't talk about him as much because, he's the other Hyman brother.
Sean can ball.
He can ball. They're losing a lot of talent. Caden Shipp, he's heading to Gonzaga. The rumors are that Royce Anderson and Dime Hardaway are both on their way out. They still have, right now, Ronnie Shanahan, Adonis Knight, with Sean Hyman, Trey Hyman. Blake Gillenwater, he might be there, he might not. Sometimes you need a spot for you need your hype man on the bench, and I think that's what Blake Gillenwater is. But they're losing a lot of talent. But I think personally, I believe that Trey Hyman puts them if Tyson Simpson, I cannot think of his name for a second. Geez, if Tyson Simpson was not on Beyond the Arch, we would probably never talk about Beyond the Arch the way that we have. And if you take Trey Hyman out of Bay Area heading into next season, and he's staying there. I don't think I'd even have them in my top 15, to be completely honest. But Trey Hyman is on that kind of level. I considered putting Cascadia on here because of the growth that we've seen of Arthur Lattimore.
And some other players coming back too, by the way. Cascadia. I looked them over too, Bob.
Yeah, Tyshawn McGrady. I think he is very, very. I don't know. I'm about to just start stammering and stuttering because it blows my mind that Tyshawn McGrady is unranked. I just believe talent-wise, just if you look at it, all the rankings. Every different outlet does their rankings differently. Some do it based off of stats. Some do it based off the eye test. It's like Mackenzie Mbako. Was he a top 20 player based on the way he played for the majority of the season? Absolutely not. Based off of talent, he's a top 5 player. So it's there's just all kinds of different ways to look at these things. But you look at Cascadia, Arthur Lattimore, McGrady. I'm a big, big fan of Halliday III. I don't necessarily think that he was given the chance to shine. I think he's a really good shooter. Obviously, if you look at the stats, he was okay. He was in the top half for them this season, field goal percentage-wise, but I do think that he is a sneaky good shooter. I really, really considered putting them into my top 3 as well, along with Gulf Coast, but I just think Trey Hyman. That's it. Trey Hyman.
Well, you're bringing. I think there's a very, very good possibility you should be bringing both the Hymans back. And that's going to be a really. It was a really solid front court this year. It's going to be even better next year, as they're just going to be a year older. Yep. Sean and Trey roaming down there, and Bay Area only for sure loses 2 players. They are starters. Or Curtis London was a starter for half the season, kind of playing a small forward, sort of 3-and-D kind of role. Curtis London gone. And Caden Shipp, a great player, 17th ranked player overall in SimWorld. Obviously a loss to lose him. He's moving on to Gonzaga. And in theory, the other 8 guys could come back. It's just, I have concerns about it. You already talked about Royce Anderson, Bob. Yeah. Royce is a fantastic player, averaging more than 11 points a game, 36th ranked overall. If he leaves, that's a big defection, as he would step into that small forward spot. Hyman, Anderson would be a nice 3-4-5 a run down there, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Dime Hardaway could step in and take over the point guard duties that Caden Shipp largely managed this year, and he'd be perfectly suited for it, I think. But once again, I'm not sure if he's coming back. leaves the other position kind of open on this squad, being the shooting guard in effect, and or kind of guard wing kind of combo. I think they'll bring back enough to kind of cover here. Between Adonis Knight and Ricky O'Neal in particular, I think you got some talent there that's going to come back. Ronnie Shanahan, I don't know if he's going to return next year. And it's funny, for a guy who averages 4 points, a rebound, and 2 assists, I remain sky high on Ronnie Shanahan. I like him as a player. I like what he's done in the preseason. I think where we kind of got to see him show his abilities a little bit more last year than we actually did during the regular season. Once things got underway for Bay Area, probably had to frustrate Ronnie. I don't know. Maybe he's going to go back to Texas too. He and Tim Ricks are going to hook up. Look, if they can bring all the talent back, and that's your job, Dre Pope.
Yeah,
Dre Pope, coach of Bay Area. You got to get out there. You should be selling. Moving. I don't know, some Russell Stover chocolates, maybe some Pepperidge Farms gift bags or something like that. Some things. Send them out to Royce. Send them to Dime. Send them to Ronnie. Hey, don't forget about these other. Keep Ricky O'Neal. Keep Adonis in the fold. Maybe you shouldn't even assume that the Hymans are safe. Nothing's safe. If you could pull it off. If you could pull all these guys back, and you know what? I don't care if you even replace Hayden Shipp and Curtis London with anybody who's going to average more than 5 minutes and some specky stats here and there next year. If you can get the rest of these 8 guys to come back, then I can't fault Bob's pick. But they didn't make it into my top 3, and there's a reason for it, and it's because I just kind of feel like I have a feeling like this is a team that could fall apart. This was a tremendous collection of talent that came together this year, and it just kind of derailed at the end of the season. It didn't end up the way anybody was hoping it was going to down there in the Bay, and I could just see that kind of disappointment leading to a lot of defections. We'll see. We'll see where it all shakes out in the next 4 or 8 weeks. But talented roster that I just think is going to blow away in the wind once free agency hits us. So we'll see. We'll see. But then again, look, this is all, we're both making prognostications right here now, Bob. And, I'm betting on BTA to hold their core together and pick up pieces. Bay Area, I just kind of feel like it's going to go in the different direction. But hey, this is why we tune in. This is why we watch all the preseason action and all of the scrimmages. This is why we go to Discord, discord.gg/SimWorldNBA to follow all the news.
Don't pass that fake news along. We changed it. It is SimWorld Hoops now. We're getting everything changed over to SimWorld Hoops. We're moving.
You can see how quickly things move too. I can't even keep up. So I'm glad Bob's on top of it.
YouTube. I'm pretty sure we changed the YouTube channel to SimWorld Hoops. We are moving on up.
All right. Well, we're moving on up as SimWorld Hoops, and we're expecting these 6 teams. Well, actually, we had some overlap, so I guess it wasn't 6 teams, but each of our 3 teams to emerge next season, be at the top of things. But we made some predictions here. I'll make one prediction that I can 100% stand by, and that is, Bob, whatever we think is going to happen today, it's going to be a lot different once real games start happening. So
absolutely,
that's the one thing I can promise you. Every team we mentioned may not make the race to 1 next year, but one thing that will happen that we're going to be right about is things will happen that you just didn't even see coming.
Teams. First off, let me go ahead and correct myself because I threw some false lies out there too. Our YouTube channel is still SimWorld TV. I'm sure we'll figure that out someday. Yeah. But hey, no teams have to worry about missing the championship next season. Everybody gets a shot. We're going back to the ground zero season. So Middle East, even though you're probably only going to win 2 or 3 games, you got a chance to make a splash. Well,
yep, that's right.
I appreciate you as always being on here with me, and I hope everybody listening has a great rest of their weekend.
See you, folks.